Currently, Brian and I are in the middle of trying to redo both of our office/studio spaces, and all of that has been taking a long time. But while we are in the process of working on our offices, my monitor actually broke. So I used to have a 32-inch monitor that I've had for many years, but one day it decided to stop working. It wouldn't turn on, which brings me to our current mission. Right now, we are in the process of figuring out the best replacement monitor. And as you guys can tell from the title of this video, I did find one that potentially has broken every single monitor for me. It is so far unbeatable. So I have a little bit of a dilemma. So I wanted to bring you guys along and tell you guys about my experience for the last couple of days with the LG GX9. Hi everyone, if you're new to my channel, my name is Paula, and this is the LG GX9, a 45-inch 5K2K OLED monitor. Big monitors are not new. There are 16:9 monitors like the Asus 42-inch OLED, there's the super ultra wide by Samsung G9, and there's also a 45-inch OLED monitor by LG that's ultra wide, which is great. The problem I have with it is it's only a 3440 by 1440 with a PPI of 82. Not a huge problem when gaming if you can push the monitor back. However, I don't have the luxury of pushing it back that far because I only have so much space at my desk and I use this monitor for work and also video editing. In short, I read a lot of text and I look at a lot of little details, which is why this release is so important because it could be exactly what I need. A large 45-inch monitor that's 5K2K, it's basically a 4K monitor that's ultra wide with a PPI of 125. As you see, that's a huge difference, so text is super clear and sharp, and gaming is a treat. Before I get too ahead of myself, let's look at what's inside the box. So this should be all the cords. We got the power brick, HDMI cord, a display port, power cord, and USB-C cord. And that's it. It just clicks into place. So nice and easy. Ta-da! That brings me to the ports. It has one display port and two HDMIs, but what I'm really excited about is USB-C with power delivery. This means I can connect my laptop directly to the monitor, and since I use a wireless keyboard and mouse, I technically don't need to use a dock. This monitor has an RGB on the back, but honestly, I couldn't even tell it was on. You could only really tell if you are using it in a really dark room with absolutely no lights on, so it's pretty dim in my opinion. Now, this is my first time ever using a curved monitor, and to be honest, it took me a little bit of getting used to seeing everything on my screen as curved instead of flat. Once I got used to the curve, I found that it's easier to position the monitor directly in front of my eye line, meaning I can't have it sit on top of a shelf, for example, because it's too tall, and also the curvature gets a little bit distracting for my eyes. This monitor has a matte panel, so it diffuses light, really good to use if you have a lot of light sources around you, or like in my case, in a really bright room. But the issue with matte is the colors do not pop as vividly. I'm basing this off of our OLED TV, which has a glossy panel and has crazy rich and vibrant colors. Another cool thing about this monitor is its built-in speakers, which are actually pretty decent sounding. I've used monitors in the past that have their own built-in speakers, but I found that the sound comes out a little bit more muffled or simply low volume, so I always plugged it into external speakers anyway. But with this monitor, the sound was pretty whole even at 50%. Obviously, I would still prefer using a soundbar for the best sound, but in the meantime, as I'm testing this, I have had no problem playing back my YouTube videos or playing back my videos as I'm editing or working, and I don't even need to use AirPods or headphones. Upgrading from a 32-inch or a 27-inch to a 45 has definitely been nice. Dare I say it has been game-changing. I like to play story games myself, and in those graphics, you can really get immersed because not only is it a bigger screen real estate, you can also see so much more of the game, but because it's also curved, it gives you that illusion of really captivating the story in the game. There is a downside to this monitor, and it is its resolution. Because there's so much pixels that it needs to render, you would really need a super strong computer to even get close to 165 Hz on AAA games. If your main game is something like Valorant, it should be no problem getting high FPS, but it does max out at 165 Hz. And that brings me to Dual Mode. With Dual Mode, this monitor can go up to 330 Hz at 1080p for competitive esports type games. The problem with that is the sharpness gets really bad. And with a screen this big, everything is so blurry. It is serviceable if you want to play high FPS games, but the blurriness kind of takes you out of the immersion. If you back up a little bit and maybe even use a controller, it should be fine. But when using high FPS, I assume you're using a mouse and keyboard to play competitive shooting games. It's okay if you don't mind so much about the visuals as much as you would maybe prefer getting the best motion clarity. My wish list for the second generation would be to get 240 Hz and 400 plus in Dual Mode. I think this would give a pretty good balance. That way, you can shrink the screen to 24 or 27 inches. However, the images will still be blurry in this mode. For this portion, I'm just gonna rattle off my lingering thoughts. After using, and let's face it, bonding with this monitor for the last couple days, it almost became too large for my use case. For one, I would still like to put a second monitor for work. Even though I have all this additional real estate, which can definitely help with my productivity, I still found that I needed that second screen to separate my work, especially since in my day-to-day, I look at a lot of Excel, a lot of small text, and also use a lot of different windows. So having them in separate screens is, I think, going to be more ideal. I also like to have a breathable area to work in, so I don't necessarily want to take up a lot of desk space just for this monitor. I think the solution would be to consider downsizing to something like a 39-inch, which would be more proportional to my desk. Luckily, according to LG, a 39-inch 5K2K is in the works, and that could be my perfect solution. Another potential issue is that a 5K2K monitor tends to be harder to run. So if you play AAA games, it's very hard to run at 165 Hz at 5K2K. Unless you have a really powerful graphics card, the chances of you running 165 Hz can be a little challenging. Lastly, I want to talk about my experience with editing and video playback. In my vlog channel, I tend to use a bit more of a portable setup. So I usually shoot vlogs using my Canon V10 and my iPhone. I was editing a vlog recently using this monitor, and looking at my V10 footage, it was very pixelated. Granted, V10 footage is more ideal to be viewed on smaller screens and generally has no problems. However, with this monitor, since it's so clear, I can very clearly see how blurry the images of a 4K footage are on the Canon V10. I know this sounds silly, but that's when I realized that this monitor may be too sharp and too clear for my liking, if that makes any sense. If I'm gonna continue editing my V10 footage on such a high caliber monitor and be subjected to lesser image quality, I fear that it would discourage me to keep working on them. Turns out it is possible to have too much of a good thing. But on the flip side of this, watching my Canon R5 and R6 clips on this monitor has been a satisfying experience. It has so much clarity and detail that I can really appreciate how great the cameras are, and it's awesome to see at this scale. For a price tag of $2,000 brand new, I'll admit the price is a little steep. However, this is the only monitor of its kind right now, so it is a premium item for sure. But if you wait for sales, or like us, if you get lucky with an open box item in excellent condition, you can find a deal for around $1,400. And at that price tag, I think this is a good monitor to consider. Recently, I saw that Computex just happened, and there are new OLED monitors on the rise. Some 32-inch 4K with high refresh rate, and are glossy, so those are pretty exciting, and I can't wait to see the reviews on those. And that's all I have for you all today. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on the LG GX9 in the comments down below. If you liked this video or found the information helpful, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up down below and subscribe for more tech and gear related videos. I will keep you all posted on the progress of our studio renovations. Hopefully we actually make some great progress here very soon. But as always, thank you all again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.